You know, in the Philippines, a teacher is so much more than just an educator. In the eyes of the law, they've got this special status. It's like a shield that offers protection, but it's also this heavy cloak that demands a ton of responsibility. So let's dive into this unique legal tightrope that every single teacher in the country has to walk.
So what is it? What really elevates a teacher's legal standing beyond that of an ordinary person? Well, the answer really gets to the very heart of how the legal system sees the whole teaching profession.
It all comes down to this one key phrase: person in authority, or PIA for short. Think of it like a special designation. On one side, it gives teachers legal protections that go way beyond what you and I might have. But on the other side, it holds them to a much, much higher standard of behavior and care.
And this is where it gets really interesting. On one side, you've got this powerful legal shield. We're talking tougher penalties for anyone who dares to assault a teacher on the job. But on the other side, you have this immense responsibility. You're more accountable for students' safety, and there are super strict limits on how you can discipline them. It's a constant balancing act.
Okay, so let's dig into that first part, the shield side of the equation. Where does this legal protection actually come from? The story of how teachers even got this status in the first place is actually a pretty fascinating piece of legal history.
Believe it or not, this protection wasn't always there. If you go back to 1930, the original law didn't even mention teachers. It took a whole decade for that to change, when in 1940, the law was amended to bring them into the fold. Then, fast forward to 1982, and the Education Act came along and basically cemented that status, making it a cornerstone of the law.
So, what does this mean in the real world? Well, it's a pretty big deal. The law literally says teachers must be given due respect and protection. If you assault a teacher while they're doing their job, you're facing a heavier penalty. And this isn't just for teachers, school administrators are covered too. But, and this is so important, notice that crucial phrase, in the discharge of their lawful duties. That's the key right there.
And that phrase, lawful duties, is exactly where we pivot to the other side of the coin. See, this authority is not a blank check. That shield has very, very clear limits, especially when it comes to how teachers deal with students.
And the Supreme Court has been crystal clear on this. This is the hard line in the sand. A teacher's authority, their status as a person in authority, it just stops. It ends the second physical abuse begins. There is absolutely no gray area here.
In fact, the law gets super specific. Doing something like slapping a student isn't just bad discipline, it's legally defined as child abuse under the anti-child abuse law. The courts have made it plain, that kind of action violates a child's fundamental right to dignity, and that PIA status offers zero protection for it. None.
So this brings us right to the huge burden of responsibility. The law doesn't just put limits on a teacher's authority, it actively demands a higher standard from them, precisely because they're in a position of power over children.
And a really important legal idea here is something called vicarious liability. Now, it sounds complicated, but it's pretty straightforward. It basically means that a teacher can be held legally responsible if one student harms another under their supervision. Why? Because the law sees it as a failure to properly supervise, which allowed the harm to happen in the first place.
Okay, so let's bring it all back to the most critical piece of this entire puzzle. Is the teacher acting in the discharge of their lawful official duties? This is everything. It's literally the switch that turns that protective shield on or off.
Let's run through a few scenarios to make this super clear. A teacher in a classroom? Yes, they're a person in authority. What if a parent attacks that teacher on campus because they're mad about a grade? Yep, the law protects them. But the moment a teacher slaps a student, that protection vanishes because the action itself is unlawful. And of course, a personal fight after work, that's not an official duty, so the status just doesn't apply.
So when you put it all together, what you have is this really delicate balancing act. The whole legal framework is designed to empower teachers, to let them do their jobs safely, but at the exact same time, it places the safety and dignity of students above all else, demanding the absolute highest level of professionalism.
Which really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? For the teachers who are actually in the classroom every day, does this dual status feel more like protection, or does it just feel like a whole lot of pressure? And maybe more importantly, in today's really complex classrooms, does this law still strike the right balance?